experiment there. You know, sometimes you move the mouse to adjust the audio, and then it just jumps really loud. Well, that happened there in that experiment, so hopefully that music didn't jar too much the way that I adjusted it. But that is from Justin Ridgway. What's up, Forest Mommy? You know, I knew you'd be up. That's the only reason I started at 4:30 a.m. on the East Coast, 1:30 on the West Coast. What is it where you are in Colorado? Is it 2:30 a.m.? Get my time zones mixed up. I think it's 8:30 maybe in Australia, Stella, if you're listening. Yeah, no, I'm totally a weird hours person. What I always say is you can watch my podcast. I can't tell you when. You got to guess is when it's going to happen. But I am going to restream this, at 10 today. So if you're watching at 10, it's not live. But if you're watching right now, 4:30, 1:30, 2:30, we are in fact live. And I got an interesting show. Really like to bring the most interesting shows, I think, in the dead of night. I kept hearing these clips of these people on CNN talking about Tulsi Gabbard. And this woman, she kept saying, Tulsi Gabbard, Trump brought Tulsi Gabbard in. And Tulsi Gabbard, I can't trust her, in the dead of night. I can't trust her. She kept saying that in the dead of night, that she can't trust Tulsi Gabbard. I heard it like 4 times during the same CNN interview. What about at noon? You trust Tulsi at noon? Do only consequential things happen in the dead of night? That's when you know someone is completely full of it. When their entire interview on CNN is, you can't trust Tulsi. Just in the dead of night, when she gets... Do things only happen in the dead of night? Do they not understand that the dead of night is different in different parts of the world? I can't trust Tulsi. I can't trust her just after lunch. Just after lunch. After dinner, I trust Tulsi. A little bit before bed, I trust her. Right at dusk, I really trust Tulsi. But in the dead of night, I can't trust that bitch. That Russian bitch. What's up, Stoner? Terminator Mommy Planet. Force Mommy, you have been a gateway for me. You've brought so many cool... Stoner came to the show through you, and I appreciate that. Like, a lot of really cool people been connected. This super... I was... I'll do this. I'll go deep on this in about halfway through the show. But, I was just really thinking about, before I started, just kind of like the community of people that you meet doing this. Which is screens are toxic in a certain way, but they're also, connective. And that you meet people that you might otherwise have never met, that you have similar beliefs as, and that you find to be super cool. And I was just thinking about how grateful I am for that. It's really awesome, And so thank you for that. Thank you for that. It's very cool. And Fat Shack, Peace Owner. I never would have really got on that Philly cheesesteak at Fat Shack that I'm now hooked on, had you not been so adamant about it. And the guy that I went up there had my basketball sleeve on, and he was like, "Did you just get done hooping?" I was like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You playing in a league?" I was like, "Yeah." And I hooked him up with so now the guy at Fat Shack, Stoner, he might be joining my basketball league. It all connects, Bring Philly cheesesteaks to the game. Maybe I'll be like, I can't play, my ankle's sore, like LeBron. But that wasn't what the show was going to be like today. So here's what I want to talk about today: the Real Housewives of Geopolitics. Commie capture in Maine. I was going to send you this link, actually, of Forest Mommy, because this is exactly what we've been talking about. And Operation Bat Bomb. Operation Bat Bomb. Okay, so again, if you're watching this at 10 a.m., then it's not live, but it's live right now. I just like to give that. I always feel bad because if I'm not in the chats, I feel like I'm missing out on the chats and stuff. I don't want people to think it's live when it's not, but I am going to be restreaming. Trump and Zelensky have been publicly feuding the past couple days. with Putin getting roped into all of it. And the media on either side are jumping in to defend their respective, their leaders. They're the people that they're fans of. And to me, this was cracking me up. It's like watching Real Housewives of New York or Las Vegas or something like that, except it's for geopolitics and it's for men. And actually did some research to verify that this is actually exactly what's going on. That the news is exactly like Real Housewives. And I'm going to prove it to you in this show. I'm not kidding. I'm going to prove it to you. That's exactly what it is. There's not mansplaining. Maybe there's a little mansplaining. There's mudslinging. There's complete lack of logic. There's emotional reactions that are way over the top. I'd be lying if I said that one side doesn't do it a little bit more than the other. However, it happens on both sides because that is what keeps the masses connected, and it's what prevents the masses from engaging in critical thought. And I was curious about how accurate my analysis of that was, and so I went to Perplexity. And of course, Perplexity is obviously something that is AI that you should always verify and never take at surface value. But here's what I asked Perplexity, and I want to show you this. This was so on point that it blew me away. And I'm going to continue to reference back to this through the entire show. With every clip that I show you, we're going to reference back to this list that Perplexity made for me that shows that the news media is exactly like the Real Housewives of wherever. It's crazy. I asked Perplexity, I said, what are three common ridiculous traits of all arguments between Real Housewives? And let me show you what it said. This was cracking me up, dude. It's so on the money. All right, so the first trait, can you guys see that? It looks a little bigger. Of the Real Housewives arguments or feuds. And we're going to be relating this back to Trump and Zelensky and the media. First one is over-the-top emotional reactions. That is on point right there. Many arguments escalate due to quickly extreme emotional reactions that often seem disproportionate to the issue at hand. The Real Housewives of Orange County, Kelly Dodd's outburst towards Shane Simpson. I didn't watch that show. But you know what we're talking about. And it says the tendency for dramatic reactions can lead to conflict that leave both participants and viewers bewildered. And that's the point of the media, is to create that conflict with people watching it that leave both people bewildered and they've never actually thought about what they're talking about. I mean, this is really insightful when you apply it to the news. And then the second one, I was on the money with some of mine, but there's a few that I didn't get to. But the second one is confusing logic and justifications. Is that not perfect for everything we see in the media? And this is Real Housewives conflicts I'm asking about. And it says arguments frequently involve convoluted reasoning that can leave audiences scratching their heads. That is the mainstream media. And they give an example. Then they conclude it by saying the lack of logical progression makes it difficult for viewers to understand motivations. The confusing logic often fuels the drama, but detracts from any meaningful resolution. That is exactly what the media intends to create, is it not? Number 3. This is so good. Random and absurd interpretations. This is so perfect. This is Real Housewives of wherever, and I'm just applying it to politics, and it's the exact same. Random and absurd interpretations. The presence of unexpected elements during arguments adds a layer of absurdity. Of course. And they give an example, as they always do. Blah, blah, blah. Such interpretations not only highlight the ridiculousness of the situation, but also serve to diffuse tension in ways that both are entertaining and nonsensical. And maybe that's some of the bread and circus that they give to us. But then it says, these traits contribute to the unique blend of drama and humor that defines the Real Housewives series, which is what we're watching, the Real Housewives of Geopolitics. And then I said, give me 7 more. And I'm only going to show you a couple of these, but these are great. Number one, dramatic monologues. Housewives frequently deliver dramatic, long-winded, impassioned speeches, which is what Rachel Maddow and what everybody on MSNBC and CNN and Fox News does. I'm gonna show you clips. I'm showing you these now because I'm about to show you clips that perfectly illustrate everything I'm showing you. It's crazy. These monologues can dramatically shift the tone of an argument. Bizarre comparisons. This is the best, dude. Hitler. Everything's Hitler. Bizarre. Participants often resort to absurd analogies or comparisons to make their points. We are watching the Real Housewives of Geopolitics right now. Public displays of affection. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's private displays of rape and molestation, I think would be more appropriate for Congress. So I'm going to refer back to this a number of times through the show. Now let's go in and thank you. Thank you. Stoner, when I see you in the chats, dude, makes me smile. Makes me feel comfortable and confident. I appreciate it. You too, Forrest Mommy. All right. So what is the example that happened yesterday? I mean, it happens every day. But yesterday, it was the Trump and Zelensky feud. And that was the big thing in the news, is that Trump and Zelensky are feuding. I don't know that you're ever going to see more backward logic in your life than this. It's impressive, actually. But what is the story of Trump-Zelensky feuding? Hold on. My notes, right spot there. Okay. A little bit bigger. Okay, so Trump kind of said that Ukraine started the war. Of course, it's interesting the way that Zelensky receives the information is the media tells them what Trump said, but it's always an exaggeration of what Trump said. So Zelensky's responding to the exaggeration, and then they go to Trump and they say to Trump, they exaggerate what Zelensky said, and so Trump is then reacting to the exaggeration of what the media told them that Zelensky said. You know, because you're signing all those executive orders, and you're doing these dual interviews with Elon Musk. You don't really have time to keep up with everything Zelensky's doing, and so the media has the ability to. So Trump is doing all that stuff to kind of ambush the media, but also by doing that, he can't keep up with everything. So the media can then tell him things that didn't happen or exaggerate things, and then he's going to be responding to things that aren't real. And then it just creates this whole fantasy fiction reality that everybody's reacting to. It's totally a game of telephone, just like you would see on the Real Housewives of Las Vegas. Everybody's mad at things that aren't actually the reality. But it's perfect for all of them because that's why people are watching. We're watching the Real Housewives of Geopolitics. And so here's what happened. After Trump kind of said that Ukraine started the war, Zelensky then reacted with a little bit, he expressed his disagreement by slinging a little bit of mud at Trump's way, saying that Trump is living in a disinformation bubble. But he said it in Ukraine. Why does he switch between Ukrainian and English? How come sometimes they show us Vladimir Zelensky and he's talking like this in good English and very, but then they have an interpreter that sounds like a computer, which makes me go, is that really what he said? Can we not get he speaks English. We've given him billions of dollars. Can he not speak to us in English, please? We've given it his little tiny dancer. Zelensky is such a joke. He's a gay actor, is what Zelensky is. Zelensky's so brave. Zelensky's not brave. Zelensky's an actor. I've seen actors. That is not a brave warrior. That is an actor. There's an actor who's gay as S, dude. I don't say that I always like the penis, but sometimes I like. It's just, he's good at it. But why do they switch the language? To confuse us. Just like the Real Housewives, to keep the drama. Give us the language, dude. And so Trump, in response to Zelensky saying that he was in a disinformation bubble on Ukraine, because from his point of view, Russia, Vladimir Putin started the war. Vladimir Putin alone started the war. He's the face of evil across the world. He's going to destroy democracy. Vladimir Putin's faces. And Trump's like, I can't even do Trump now because I got Zelensky in my head, but it's like, Ukraine started the war. Here's the thing. Neither one of those things are true. This is the exaggeration that both sides of the housewives are doing. Ukraine didn't start the war. Ukraine has had no power over any of this at all. At all. Putin himself didn't start the war. Russia played a factor in it, but nothing just starts on this certain day. Franz Ferdinand. This is the type of propaganda they fed the old world. The simplistic propaganda where they could just identify an enemy and they could just feed headlines into people's heads. And people couldn't do any research or find any other information. But the world has changed. And nuance is now a factor. There's still some people still buy into that old world model. But the propaganda is keep things simplistic, identify an enemy. Because if people start thinking in nuance, then they start questioning your BS. But the world is not that simple. Any thinking people know that. And while our screens have been addictive and in many ways bad, but just like connecting to people, that's good. Also, the fact that people find information and they ask more questions, you cannot gaslight the population into such simplicity like you used to be able to do 100 years ago. And it comes off as so childish to say, Putin alone is the guy who did it, and he's destroying democracy, and little tiny dancer Zelensky is the one man that it's so stupid. It's so stupid. But they present it as though this is 1925. And we're just going to absorb it like idiots. Some people still do. I guess those are the people that are most hardened, and they can get to do anything with activism. But they're going to have to upgrade. Maybe they are, and I don't recognize it, because they are constantly doing social science studies and psychological research. But that model doesn't work for the broad population anymore. It works for smaller parts of the population. But it comes off so stupid. And I'm sure that I'm out of touch with MSNBC's audience, but I'm about to show you some MSNBC clips, which are some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But neither Ukraine nor Russia are responsible. So Trump and Zelensky are both wrong. What about NATO? Where's the nuance of NATO? I don't know the details of all of it personally. All I know is this, that I still watch those panel discussions from the Council on Foreign Relations, from the Chatham House, from the Brookings Institution, where they talk about this stuff to each other because nobody watches their videos. They have like 30 views. Like me and a bunch of other weirdos watch them. And they don't talk about it the way the media talks about it with us. They talk about it in nuance. And they're very open about the fact that NATO provoked Russia. Now, that doesn't make Putin innocent. It doesn't make Russia great. It just makes it nuanced. And we live in a nuanced world, and more people are aware of that. And to sit here and bring out the Joe Scarboroughs of the world to say, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable to question the suspending of the elections and the martial law. It's for democracy. And Putin's elections are for dictatorship. It's just backwards. It's crazy. It's crazy that the entire media pretends it's bizarro world. They live in bizarro world. They gaslight constantly because they think we all live in 1925 and we still wear fedoras all the time. It's like, come on, damn, we talk like this and we pay a quarter for a Coke. I mean, they treat us like that. The mainstream media does anyway. Maybe that's part of it, man. It's so. I despise con artists. I just despise them. And when you're younger, you want to believe people and stuff. And I think it's good to give people the benefit of doubt, but you're always kind of aware. You know, they still got to earn your trust, but you're not just throwing everything at them, you know, and just giving them all your money and whatnot. It takes getting burned a few times when you're younger to kind of learn that, at least for me, dealing with a few pathological liars. But that's the entire government. And as you get older, you realize that there are vultures everywhere. Everywhere. There's great people everywhere. There's more great people everywhere than there are vultures. But the vultures are good at, the best ones are good at appearing to be great people. And I mean, there's people that I've had to be like, oh man, I thought you were a vulture. I thought you were full of shit, dude. Then I got to know him a little bit better. And I was like, I was wrong. You're so cool. You know, I felt like a dick. But then there's vultures. I was like, that dude's a fucking vulture and nobody realizes it yet. And I think that's the world that we're living in now. You guys, a lot of you guys probably have elderly parents. I'm sure you've got an onslaught of con artists calling them. I mean, can you imagine waking up every day? Alarm clock gets off. Well, I got to get up and go to my job, conning elderly people out of their money. Let me focus on the dementia. I mean, that is a group of people in this world who do that. There was some that were contacting my dad. My dad, he brought it to me. He said, these people have been contacting me. This was not just like an email or a robotic thing. This was somebody that they thought him, like they had him, they were trying to hook him. They had two people involved in the con. I talk about this book all the time. It's called The Big Con. One of the best books you can read is The Big Con. It was written like 100 years ago, and they define and they write out all these scenarios of these cons that happen because this writer traveled with this roving band of con artists, and he documented everything they did, and you take everything in that book and you just apply it to now and you modernize it. In the same psychological stuff is going on. And I was my dad, because my dad was cool, you know, I told him, I was like, Dad, just let me know if the stuff goes on. And he's a smart guy, and he knew what I did, so he asked me about it. And it's like, yeah. I looked at the text messages, and I listened to the voicemail, a two-person team. And it was a guy, they had invested so much time because they were trying to steal my dad's money from him. And my dad worked his entire life at the same company to earn his money, to take care of his family and his wife when she got sick. And this guy was trying to steal it from him. And so I pretended to be him, and of course I'm vulgar, so I'm just like, I pretended to be him for a little while, and then eventually he was like, you don't sound like Jay. And I was like, I'm his son. I was like, and then I said, what do you do when you come home from work to see your wife? Do you say, hey, honey, I'm home from stealing from elderly people? I was like, and then I just started saying, why don't you F your own face? And I got really vulgar and went on a pretty impressive 9-minute rant to this guy. And then it ended because he defended the entire time. The guy was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. It's real. No, this is all real. I knew it wasn't real. I 100% knew it wasn't because I'd seen the con before. Like if you study these cons, like in that book, it's the same, it's like it's the same like set of cons that they've been doing for 100 years. They just update them, but it's like the same steps and the same philosophy and psychology. Exact same. And finally, he cracked after about 9 minutes of me relentlessly telling him to fold up and suck his own dick and belittling him. And my dad was right there the whole time. I'm sure he was just like, Brad. I'm like, Dad, I'm doing this for a reason. And he goes, his voice changed and it got real like evil. And he goes, I'm just going to call him back when you're not around. And he said it like that. And I said, dude, he's listening right now. And the guy never called back. But that was the most if you ever see that show, what's that show on? He was on Prime. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the guy that kind of looks like me. He's a little bit older than me. I'll think of it in a minute. But it's a con artist show. But it was like a real 2-person team that I had not actually seen before, and they thought they had my dad hooked. Never called back again, but I guarantee you they had a whole list of other people that they hooked. And the point in saying all of that is, you're not a dick if you're a skeptic. You're not. It's okay. It's okay to make people earn your trust. It's perfectly fine. I expect, like, I meet people, I'm like, look, yeah. I don't expect blind trust. It's the people that expect blind trust that I'm skeptical of, especially when they express that expectation of it. And the entire media cycle right now is dependent on the blind trust of the audiences that they're delivering it to. How can you sit here and I'm going to play these clips. I didn't mean to go on a 15-minute rant about that, but it's relevant. These clips are crazy. These clips are Real Housewife shit. Trust is like, my whole thing is like, I'm earnest, and I'll get shit wrong, but like, I'll beat myself up about it. You know, there's just such a demeanor for me. Jessica, totally trustworthy. 100% Forrest Mommy. Sam Tripoli, 100% trustworthy. 100%. Those are genuine people. They are on social media who they are when you talk to them. They're exactly the same. There's a lot of other people that are not. Liberty Libations guys, exactly the same. Trustworthy in my opinion. But we all get shit wrong, you know? But then there's a lot of other people, and you meet them in person, then you see their online thing. It's like, okay, there's a disconnect. There's a huge disconnect. That's the value also of getting to meet some people in person. It's like, wow. Wow, so you're not just a bunch of surface level Dave Smith tweet. I love when Dave Smith tweets something just so I can see like 12 people tweet the exact same thing. You break. Dave Smith is smart. Yeah, he's very Oracle. Whatever. He's fine. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Research is pretty racist. Isn't that crazy, Stoner, that they did that? Doing your own research is racist. No, I think you should trust your own gut. And I think this is, we live in a time that's like, I don't care if somebody doesn't trust me. I don't trust me. I don't know. But like, you do see a lot of successful Real Housewives of. Now let me get back to it. Yeah, this is all relevant for what I'm talking about. But I do want to tie it back in before I end up doing a 14-hour show like I tend to do sometimes when I go on rants. All right, so bringing it back to the whole Trump and Zelensky, both telling stories that aren't the story. They're the exaggeration. The nuances, NATO and all that, and it's the conversation about that even the Brookings and Chatham House and all that talk about. But the media presents it in this, binary way that's just, we don't live in a world like that. It's not real. But they think they can propagandize people into thinking it's real by using hate and emotion, which is exactly what a Real Housewives of LA use. And these clips that I have, I think I'll start with there. Okay, so here we go. This is great. So Trump on top of saying that, he said some things about Zelensky. And then you can say what you will about Trump. You can dislike Trump. You can question Trump. There's lots of things to question. You should always question. If you are a Trump supporter and you love Trump, it is your job to question Trump the hardest. That's your job. It's because you need to make your voice heard if he starts doing stuff that you don't like, so he can hear it, because we have this platform. And so it's great to do that. But right here, Trump right here, is 100% on the money, saying things that many of us have been saying since the beginning of the Ukraine war. He is spitting facts, as I guess the kids say. I don't know if the kids say it. Spitting facts out. There it is. All right. All of this, everything he says here is like provably true. Here it is. This is yesterday. Trump saying facts. And then I'm going to play you the reaction in the media to provable facts.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine.
100% true.
Where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
And where a country has been blown to smithereens. You got
100% true.
That most of the cities are laying on their sides.
True.
The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site.
By design.
I believe President Zelensky said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well,
true.
We gave them, I believe, $350 billion, but let's say it's something less than that, but it's a lot. Where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down.
We're hearing.
Now, I don't know what dome he's talking about, but when it comes to the money, and when it comes to the martial law and the elections thing, I don't think he mentioned the elections thing there. But is that a lot to ask for? It doesn't seem like it. You know, hey, we gave you all. There's $1 billion that they don't know what happened to it. Is it too much to ask that can you have a little transparency about that? You guys have the Nazis over there, the Azov Battalion. We would like for the weapons to not end up in the hands of the Azov Battalion. Is that too much to ask? Is it too much to ask that you don't suspend your elections and declare martial law? Those seem like very reasonable things. And that's happening over there. But the way the media has covered this, you would think that these are the most Nazi, baby raping ideas you've ever heard in your life. And is this the next clip? Oh, God, dude, this is the craziest clip. MSNBC is so funny. I can't take him seriously. This is MSNBC obviously bringing some, good discussion and thought and analysis to this conversation about what Trump said here about Zelensky. And Trump did say in a post later, because she does mention this, and make sure I got that, because he didn't say this. He said that Zelensky is like kind of being a Nazi or being a dictator is what he said, which is funny. And you'll see why. You'll see why. It's just like nuts. Hold on. Sorry. I got kind of a new setup I'm trying here. And it's taking me a second to find my screen. Okay. So, along with that clip, what Trump also said was, he said on True Social that Zelensky, half the money is missing. He refuses to have elections. It's very low in Ukraine in the polls right now, as he said there. And he said that he played Biden like a fiddle, And then he said, a dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. A dictator without elections. So that's the key line that Trump said that is the focus of a lot of this, along with the accusation of who started it. Now, pay close attention to the reaction to this, to that line about the dictator, because I've done some research that we're going to bring up here in a minute. I can't remember this chick, but she used to be a Republican, I think in the Bush administration, and she has mastered the Jake Tapper outrage face over here on MSNBC. The first 58 seconds of this are extraordinary.
Think of it this way, like a violent home invasion. You call the police, and when they arrive, officers take the side of the intruders. You started it, they say, insisting the only peaceful way forward for you and your family is to let the invaders keep the upstairs bedroom. You'd, of course, be shocked. Your neighbors would fear for their own safety. And how long would any semblance of peace in your house or your neighborhood last? Yeah. Well, today, Donald Trump called Ukraine's President Zelensky, a man who's done nothing but valiantly defend his homeland and his people, a, quote, dictator without elections.
He does not have elections. That's true. It's a true thing.
An especially insane and rich accusation given.
An insane accusation to say he's a dictator without elections. He does not have elections. That's a fact that she just called insane.
And the fact that Trump's administration is right now at the negotiating table, not with Ukraine, but with Vladimir Putin, who most recently won a miraculous 88% of the vote in Russia, a figure nearly as high as it is preposterous.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's clear now. It's clear. It seems Zelensky didn't win any vote. He didn't have a vote. So it's like that old saying about democracy, better to suspend the vote and declare martial law than win by a preposterous margin. That's the undemocratic thing to do. I think Benjamin Franklin said the only way to protect democracy is by making sure that there are no democratic elections. That's democracy 101, according to the logic used here. Democracy can only continue to exist if you make sure that democracy does not exist, according to this logic. It is those who hold these values who are keeping the world safe for democracy. It is only the anti-democratic dictators around the world who are holding elections, who are the authoritarians. Let it be known. This is the real housewives logic that I'm talking about. This is going back to what I was telling you earlier. This is the dramatic monologue from Perplexity that described how the Real Housewives drama works. This is the bizarre comparisons. It's all here. It's all the same model. The confusing logic and justifications. I mean, she is literally calling it crazy to call out Zelensky for suspending elections and declaring martial law. And it gets even wilder. She's so crazy.
Entirely upside down, insipid, and
oh God, I think I cut it off too soon.
Not with Ukraine, but with Vladimir Putin, who most recently won a miraculous 88% of the vote in Russia, a figure nearly as high as it is preposterous. Trump's entirely upside down, insipid, and backwards analysis.
It's upside down and insipid. He's literally pointing. Those are facts, and she did. For those listening, she did analysis in air quotes. Analysis. These are facts. These are facts that he pointed out, Trump. Zelensky has declared martial law. Zelensky has suspended elections. These are provable facts. But she's actually telling the truth. Because in her world, in the world of the media, provable facts like Zelensky declaring martial law and suspending elections, like the Pentagon losing track of $1 billion worth of our weapons that were sent to Ukraine. All of those truths are upside down, insipid, and backwards when they undermine the narrative that she has been paid to propagate. Truth is backwards. Gaslighting is truth in this world. This is not a non-fictional show. It's only presented as a non-fictional show. This is a fantasy fiction. It's crazy, the gaslighting. They tell us we are defending and fighting democracy, and yet here they are saying that calling for Zelensky to have democratic elections and not declare martial law, that is insane. And that Putin having elections, which, every erection is rigged. It's true. Every erection is rigged, and so is every election in some ways. But just a surface argument. These elections that are on the surface, they say they're democratic. That is authoritarian. This suspending of elections and the declaring of martial law, this is defending democracy. This is what they're telling their viewers. These are the indivisible activist emails I'm getting. It's so crazy. And she called it backwards to point. I mean, she's literally upside down on her head here. But she's so good at it. She's so good at it. And she does it with such a straight face because she's an actress. This is not a true believer. This is somebody who used to work for the Bush administration. She's been in this game a long time. Oh, they have Blue Chew. Every erection, Blue Chew. I need to get a Blue Chew sponsorship here too. It's rigging Blue Chew rigging elections across the world. That's a great. We just came up with a great ad, Stoner. It's brilliant. I need to pitch them that. That's actually really good. I don't know what their actual audience is. I think they have a lot of hate audience members, TT. I only watch them because I find them entertaining. And I have a story that I'll tell you guys in a few weeks. I wish I could tell you now. I had to sign an NDA. It's for an audition. And I was just myself in it because I didn't care if I got it. And it was very interesting. It was very interesting. That's a teaser. A couple weeks, once that's released, then I'll tell you guys about it. It'll be a lot of fun. The viewers they do have are going to be radicalized and hardened who believe them. And I met somebody the other day who told me, this guy said to me, and he believed it. He said that he felt like the only mainstream media news network that did not lie was MSNBC. He was serious. He was 100% serious. And I told him, I said, I think maybe they lie a little bit. I think maybe they... And then I told him that Rachel Maddow's an actress on a fictional TV show. But he kept saying that, no, MSNBC is the only one that doesn't engage in all that propaganda BS. And he believed it. And that's not going to be the majority of the population, but that's going to be enough people who control media. Because this is a person who is in entertainment. And I don't even think he meant it insidiously. He was a nice person. He was a true believer. And they do have enough of it. I mean, they have more viewers than I do. They don't have viewers like they used to. But I don't know how you can sit here and be hammered over the head for years. We're giving all of our taxpayer dollars for billions to Ukraine, who have Azov battalion Nazis, by the way, that these weapons could end up in their hands, which we warned them about. We said, well, if you don't track the weapons could end up in the Nazis' hands because there's a long track record of literal Nazis with swastika tattoos in Ukraine. Like a lot of people warned them about that. And of course it happened. And then you have them sitting here going, no, it's totally democratic. It's totally making the world safe for democracy. to suspend democratic elections around, not around the world, but in Ukraine, and declare martial law. It's the most democratic thing ever. You know what the most undemocratic dictator thing is ever? To have elections and win by a preposterous margin. Anybody winning an election by a preposterous margin, there's the next Hitler. This is the line. This is the actual logic. It's wild, dude. Like, I try to take myself out of this sometimes. I've read so many of these really old propaganda books where these really great writers who are like us, they want to uncover truth and stuff like that. And they were a lot of fun to read some of their, because very sarcastic about it. Porter Sargent's a good one. Getting Us into War is a great book. It's very, he has all of the citations from Congress and footnotes and everything. Very fun and sarcastic writer. 700-page book about how we're just getting pulled into war. Written in like 1939. And he's so prescient. And like, I read that stuff and I like imagine it from a distance. But there's a separation there. But I see something like this. This is batshit crazy. And I'm like, we're living in this right now. We're living in this opposite reality being presented to through screens. Of course, we have other sources of media and stuff, but there's certain people who they only get their news from people like this. Like that person I talked to the other day. I know a number of people who only watch MSNBC and only think that MSNBC is the one they can trust. And I just feel like somebody's going to be watching us, kind of separated 40, 50 years from now going, man, that is wild. It's hard to see it when you're in it, but it's just, that's the face of gaslighting right there. The Porter Sargent, Getting Us into War. You can download it, actually. It's on archive.org. I bought it. I bought a hard copy of it. I think it's not expensive, but it's a great book. You just go flip through the index of that book, and you will be reading for hours. The dude is great. And the stuff that they did in Congress, it's like, man, it's kind of, they get away with a lot of stuff. They pass a lot of bills and legislation that we don't really pay attention to. It's hard to. We all have jobs and we all have stuff that we're trying to survive. They can slip a bunch of stuff in, and government, man, it's like a scam. You know what we need? We need like, I guess there are watchdogs, but we need like community watchdogs on local governments, like Jessica does in Colorado, and other people do also in their local areas. We need more of that, and we need people whose job is to just watch them. Maybe, I don't ever want to say AI helps with that because they put 1,000 pages into things. But it's the best grift to get into. This book, The Big Con. The politicians always worked with a con artist to target the people that had the most money. And they all pretended to be something they weren't. I'm not saying all politicians are liars and illegitimate. I think people can get into it for good reasons. I just hope they don't get something slipped into their drink. I'm not black-pilled, by the way. I don't ever want to sound black-pilled. I'm actually, I think the more that people learn about this stuff, the more that it gets out there, I think the more that the illusion falls apart. And I think the more people realize that everything they've been told about how things work, it doesn't actually work that way. And actually you can do this or you can do that. And actually you are capable of this or that. And then that confidence builds of, well, I can go up and question people. I can go because these politicians bank on not being questioned. Or the good ones want to be questioned, actually. And they keep people distracted and divided. Exactly, dude. We need to do our own good propaganda. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, It's like making it sexy to be a critical thinker, you know. Chicks dig critical thinkers. Do commercials. Instead of chicks dig the long ball, chicks dig people who ask questions. Yeah, they're all freaking out because the light is about to be shown and they're dark. Yeah, I do feel like that is happening. Because it's so simplistic, their strategy. But I don't think that works with enough of the population. It works with some of them for sure. Because of that emotional aspect, that Real Housewives aspect of it. And this chick continues a little bit longer here.
That it's Zelensky, an American ally who is somehow a dictator in this story, was a response to an observation President Zelensky made 24 hours ago, that Trump was in a, quote, disinformation bubble by suggesting that Ukraine was responsible for its own invasion. It's another blinking red plot point in the Republican Party's descent from a functional political party from anything resembling the good parts of what it used to be. A departure from values it claimed to hold dear last week. Watch Republicans praise Zelensky. Okay,
so everything's upside down and inside out to her. It's crazy to call Zelensky that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she said, she did the air quotes saying Trump's analysis. Like, we already talked about the facts, but she said Trump's analysis. So maybe Trump went too far by saying that because Zelensky suspended elections and because he declared martial law, maybe it's too far to say that he's a dictator. So I asked Perplexity. I asked them, let me pull that up for you guys. I said, what is a leader who suspends elections and martial law? And here's what Perplexity said. Perplexity said, this is hilarious. It said, a leader who suspends elections and enacts martial law is often characterized as an authoritarian or dictatorial. Such actions typically indicate a move away from democratic norms and towards a more centralized autocratic rule. And then it says, in recent examples, number one recent example, Ukraine's President Zelensky has maintained martial law, which was declared on February 24th, 2022, due to Russian invasion. This has resulted in the postponement of scheduled elections, though Zelensky argues this is necessary to maintain Ukraine's military readiness and prevent Russian exploitation. She did air quotes. She said Trump's analysis was, how did Trump get control of Perplexity? Did Elon come in and take over Perplexity? This is clearly Trump talking. She air quoted this analysis. Everything else he said was factually provable, but this analysis that he's a dictator because of this, he's literally, Perplexity is woke. Perplexity is not like a right wing, hate-filled AI thing. Perplexity says what you can't. Perplexity won't tell you anything. Like Perplexity, I'm like, tell me how gay you are. And it's like, you can't say gay. It'll give me a long lecture. I'm like, shut up, retard. And be like, you should. It'll put me in timeout for doing that. Like, I can't use it for 10 minutes. But it gave me this answer. And she does air quotes about his analysis. This is gaslighting. This is an assurance, a confidence that other than the people hate watching like us will never lift a finger to get information from anywhere else. It's crazy. Of course it is. Of course it is. Imagine if Trump declared martial law and he suspended elections. Do you think they'd be saying, no, he's doing it for democracy? The only way to protect democracy is to destroy it. Anybody holding elections is a dictator. This is an upside down argument that you would hear on the Real Housewives of LA. And this is some bitch telling you the most ridiculous logic in the most confident way. Is what it is. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know you've got an argument with your girlfriend and it's swift and it's quick. And you recognize it, you can't say anything. That's what this is. Oh, also, back to those traits of the Real Housewives that I asked about, just to refresh on those. Again, over-the-top emotional reactions, we've seen that. We've seen confusing logic in jurisdictions. For those just listening, I asked what the type of traits are displayed when there's a feud on the Real Housewives shows, and I'm comparing it to what we see in the media. We've seen the confusing logic and justifications. We've seen the random, absurd, interruptions, but interpretations or interruptions, whatever. Dramatic monologues. We just witnessed a dramatic monologue, and we just witnessed a bizarre comparison. We're watching the Real Housewives of Geopolitics, is what we are. And there's a couple more. Got a couple more clips for you here. She ends her monologue, her Real Housewives monologue, and she's going to bring on an ambassador. What's this guy's name? Oh, I got his name here somewhere. He's an ambassador to something, but he looks like a very serious man. Michael McFaul. Michael McFaul. You bring Michael McFaul on, and he's not going to go into this binary thinking. He's going to give us a little nuance to the discussion, I would expect. Let's see what Michael McFaul has to say about the cause of the Ukraine-Russia war. I expect a very reasonable opinion here.
President Trump has never had a big commitment to the truth. He's obviously in the bubble. I agree completely with President Zelensky. He's getting his information from this bubble. But it is not about opinions. I'm glad you're emphasizing that. It is a fact that Russia invaded Ukraine. You don't get to have an opinion about that. 2 + 2 = 4. You don't get to have an opinion about that. You don't get to say, I believe that 2 + 2 = 4. It's a fact. Putin invaded.
I didn't realize it was math. You don't get to have an opinion about math. It's a perfect point. I remember being in algebra. I never raised my hand and said, it's my opinion that 2 + 2 = Ukraine and NATO were part of the start of the war. I never got to say that. You don't get to have an opinion about math. You don't get to have an opinion. This is what they're telling their viewers. You don't get to have an opinion, despite it being a very nuanced and complicated, and it didn't just start in 2022. 2014, Victoria Nuland, all that shit. I mean, this is not, wars don't start on, we look at history and it's like, Franz Ferdinand, fire, all that shit. That's when everything was fine, and then war broke out. There's a lot of complicated things going on. And anybody who's an adult knows that. This is childish arguments here. This is what they think of their viewers. You don't get to have an opinion about math, and it's math that Russia and Putin are solely responsible for. NATO, fuck you. I'll fuck your mother. NATO, go die in a dumpster. You piece of shit. I mean, that's the way this guy talks. It's that attitude. Imagine sitting in one of these activist things with this, and somebody's like, I just saw this thing about NATO. Like, I just watched these Council on Foreign Relations people say, yeah, kind of NATO. We did encroach them, and that's a factor, and it goes way back. Like, imagine thinking about bringing that up and just how you're just going to get your ass raped by the entire group if you do. I mean, you'll get killed. This guy will murder you. You don't question math, or I will slit your throat. Let's see what Perplexity has to say, because I wanted to know what it thought about the simplicity of the math that started this war. Let's see. Let's see if Perplexity agrees. Not that Perplexity is the end-all, be-all. Perplexity is very woke. That's why I'm asking it, because I'm expecting woke answers. Oh, Perplexity says, here's what I asked it. I asked it, let me give full disclosure. I said, did Russia invade Ukraine because of NATO encroachment? So I did give a little bit of a slanted question. I just wanted to see how it took that. It said, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 was not solely due to NATO's expansion. Well, it's not solely due to it. 2 plus 2 is not 4 solely because of 2 plus 2. Is what I'm hearing. But it was a significant factor cited by Russian leadership. President Putin repeatedly mentioned NATO's eastward expansion as a threat to Russia's security and used that as justification. And this says, however, the reality is more complex. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No, you don't have to say Putin's a good guy. You don't have to say Zelensky's a good guy. You can say it's more complex. You can say you don't understand it all. I don't. I know that it's not what they tell me. I know that. And I know that I've heard the CFR people talk about how they're trying to provoke Russia. But that doesn't mean that I think Putin is not trying to find an angle or a game on that himself. All I know is this simplistic story they tell us is bullshit. And this dude insults these. I feel sorry for these brainwashed people who listen to this guy. 2 plus, does he have a family? How does he talk to his kids? What a piece of shit that guy is. You're not encouraging any thinking or any growth. You're encouraging enslavement with that type of communication with people. I mean, that's the public school system in a nutshell. It's dipshits like that. Go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. Motherfucker ever talking to me like that, dude. I mean, come on. And he's a pussy. Who gets off? Where does this guy get his power? This guy's a pussy. You know how you never see anybody jacked doing that? You never see anybody who just look like they're at Zen, who look like they could just whip everybody's ass. You don't ever see those people saying 2 plus 2 is Russia is invaded Ukraine. You don't ever see people like that who can whip ass because they think. You always see these weak ass piece of shit. This guy sucks his own. I don't want to get vulgar. I get vulgar when I get angry. Because time out rocking chair over there. How many books on dildos does this guy have? This guy's got a shelf full of. I apologize for the vulgarity. I dislike this guy very much. What a trash person. Awful thing to say. What a disempowering thing to say.
You don't get to have an opinion about that.
You don't get to have an opinion about that.
2 plus 2 equals 4. You don't get to have an opinion about that. You don't get to say.
This guy doesn't get to tell anybody what they get to have an opinion about. That pisses me off, man. Yeah, it's just awful. Yeah, this guy loves the Nazis. He loves the Azov Battalion. I am pissed, Matthew. That angers me, man. Because there's people that listen to that guy. That's what makes me mad. That's what pisses me off the most. When there's clowns like that guy, that there's obviously people whom he influences. He wouldn't have the audacity to speak like that if nobody listened to his dipshit ass. If they said, oh, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, you don't get to have an opinion. They mocked him relentlessly. Then he might be humbled a little bit and be a cooler person. But there's people who probably he's led to believe he can help them in their career in politics because he's an ambassador, because maybe he bought one of Hunter Biden's paintings for $5 million or something. Hunter Biden probably drew a dick with his dick or something on this painting, $5 million. This guy bought it. He's an ambassador. And now he's probably got a bunch of interns who are like, oh, yeah, no, 2 plus 2 is definitely, yeah, no, I hate anybody who says Russia is not evil. This is a disempowering person who does not care about his proteges. And he has proteges who he is mentoring to be awful like him. And only some of them will get there. So some of them will be activists that they will throw under the bus and they will get arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails at a MAGA bus or something or Elon Musk, 15th baby mama walking down the street, some influencer, True Social or something. And they'll go to jail, and they'll be the one organizer who organized this person and convinced them to do that. That's how they do it. They find the person best at organizing. They find the person best at lying to a group of people who have been so hardened and radicalized by propaganda that they could get them to do things that are illegal. And then they get them to do illegal things, and those people ruin their lives and their future. But the people who are able to organize the most at one time, they rise politically. It's the story of Stacey Abrams, the beluga whale. The 6'5" beluga whale with a gap in her teeth you could drive a Mack truck through. I don't like Stacey Abrams. And I know that there was a story about like the $2 billion. Stacey Abrams, I don't know if that's true about the Stacey Abrams thing. I haven't looked into it. I just saw it right before the show. Stacey Abrams has been laundering money through organization after organization in Georgia for over a decade. And she's one of these people. She starts an organization. We are training activists. We're doing this humanitarian thing. And it's a bunch of bullshit to brainwash people and bring in a bunch of money. Then she steps down as CEO, and she goes and starts another organization, and then that previous organization gets investigated. Always after she steps down and starts another one. She's a money laundering criminal. So I hope the story about her is true. Her whole family is a family of con artists. All of these people are con artists. And I know so many people who think Stacey Abrams is so wonderful. And I sometimes don't have the heart to tell them that, if 36 hours go by and she hasn't eaten, that she will literally eat them without a thought. She will eat them. She'll swallow them like a piece of sushi from Publix, and she'll have no second thought about it. They'll go right down, and maybe she'll spit them back up like a beluga whale, and they'll survive. But chances are they're going to end up in the bowels of Abrams, like hundreds of thousands of others, I'm sure. Yeah, 90% of them are con artists. Stacey Abrams was so nice when I met her. Well, was she nice when she ate your face off in the future? Stacey Abrams organized a whole bunch of people from the HBCU schools in Atlanta, around Spelman, and I can't remember the other one. All the other ones, there's like 4 of them over there, and she sent them to go burn down a Korean grocery store that had been in that neighborhood for decades. And the family lived there, and they chased that Korean family to the top of that grocery store. And there's still videos. I have them. And the people who survived this have been telling stories about this. It traumatized their family for citizen. Burn their store down. They're throwing bricks down. They had to bring helicopters in, and they had to have police come in a V formation, and they had to throw in gas to disperse the crowd. Stacey Abrams has bragged about organizing this mob. And those people who were involved in it, they got arrested. Stacey Abrams, she got a job in government. This is how all of these people we see on television get to where they are, by throwing people who they manipulate under the bus. Man, I am pissed. You're right. I don't like to get so pissed. All right, a couple more. I'm going to do like a fun story and get out of here. But like, that guy really set me off, man. I'm sorry. I'm not usually so angry. I just did not like the way that guy talked to people. It just makes me mad when people talk down to other people like that. All right, so here is, I don't even remember what this chick says, but this is back to CNN. and they're having a panel discussion on the same topic. There's a CNN bimbo pretending like they're just pretending like anybody ever thought Ukraine was going to win this war. This is just a fictional reality. Like, nobody ever believed what this woman is about to say.
Republicans and increasingly Democrats do wonder what's the end game here with the conflict in that region, that they don't necessarily see the possibility of Ukraine taking back all of its territory and there's a ticker tape parade and everybody's excited and they won.
Nobody ever thought that. Nobody ever legitimately thought that. It's not, maybe some activists you can say, yeah, maybe, because they told themselves that, but that was like a joke. She's acting like all of these Republicans and all of these Democrats and some Republicans, they really thought that Ukraine was going to win this war. They're actually surprised. That's like me being surprised that Georgia Tech didn't beat Duke in basketball. I really thought Tech was going to beat Duke in basketball, and then they lost by 50. Like, how did that? They lost. I was sure they were going to win, but they lost by 75 points. I never thought Georgia Tech was going to beat Duke in basketball, and nobody ever thought Ukraine was going to win this war, because the only reason they were in this war is because we were giving them enough weapons just to continue fighting and continue losing while continuing to demolish their entire infrastructure so they could build it back better. So the world's first infrastructure, which Zelensky promised to turn Ukraine into back in 2019, which the USAID was fundamental in building. Bring this back to Samantha Powers, who would go around in these interviews and brag about, well, the silver lining of this war is that we get to expedite the development of the first e-government in the world, the DIA app, the state in an app Zelensky promised in 2019. And just so happens, Russia demolished the entire country right after that so we could build back the smart infrastructure. 2 + 2. Yeah, seems a little bit like part of the plan, Samantha. If we wanted them to beat Russia, we would have given them the weapons to beat Russia. It's like you see some guy getting his ass kicked by a guy who's bigger than him, and you have a gun. And you're like, no, I'm not going to give him the gun. I'm going to give him this tiny baseball bat and a stick. So you could, you can knock him in the knees, but he can get back, and then they get a bigger bat, they knock him down. Like, okay, that bat doesn't work anymore. Okay, I have this gun. I have these guns that I could give him, and he could literally blow this guy away. I'm going to give him these plastic brass knuckles so he can get a few. That's what we did with Ukraine. We didn't want Ukraine to win. We wanted Ukraine demolished. It is so obvious. It's so obvious. But of course, the only way to protect democracy is to suspend elections and to declare martial law. And all of the dictators, you can tell them apart because they're the ones holding elections. Like that movie, My Bodyguard. My Bodyguard, My Bodyguard. Is that with who is it? Are you talking about Bodyguards, My Bodyguard? Is that a different movie? It sounds like a funny movie. Whitney Houston? Is that the Whitney Houston movie? Yeah, the old Halliburton trick. All right. I've been real animated. I'm gonna go to a lighter thing after this, then I'm gonna get out of here. So here's a final clip of some more ridiculous stuff from these people.
Now our president is undermining the Ukrainian president and siding with Russia. I mean, I think at a bare...
That logic. So this is this backward logic. This is this going back to what they said in the Desperate Housewives. Where's the logic? Confusing logic. You see it? This is they're not the Desperate, it's the Real Housewives. I said, what happens when the Real Housewives on these shows fight? What kind of characteristics they demonstrate? Confusing logic and justifications. It's the exact same thing every step of the way. Her logic is that you are siding with Putin and Russia because you dare to call out the fact that Zelensky suspended elections and declared martial law. Oh, that sounds like something Putin would say. That's the logic. Well, Zelensky declared, well, okay, Putin, get his D out of your mouth. I mean, come on. I mean, you have to, they're so childish. It works on some people, though. I am surprised sometimes. People will say that. Like, not a lot, but like, no, okay, yeah. Oh, so you got a problem with suspending elections? You got a problem with martial law? That's democracy, okay? You sound like Putin. What do you hold elections? You hold elections? Okay, dictator. It's crazy. It's like really crazy, the backward. And they just pump so much information that people compartmentalize it in those logic-proof compartments Bernays and Freud, that's where he gets it from, wrote about. The people are this, democracy is martial law. And like, what? God, dude. Stuff is gold, though. Look at these guys. This guy's just thinking about, this guy on the left is just like, you see him, he's kind of leaning down. He's just like, I can't wait to get home at 5 p.m. and get back in that bondage and cage. Like this guy wants a ball gag in his mouth. You can tell. The lady in the pink, I don't really know. I don't know what she wants. I think she wants a little Donald Trump right there, the lady in the pink. All right. Yeah, so just to, that was an episode of Real Housewives of Geopolitics. Again, just to refresh, over-the-top emotional reactions. Random, oh, I can skip that one. Over-the-top emotional reactions. Saw a lot of those. That's the wrong one. Bizarre comparisons. Dramatic monologues. Random, absurd interruptions. There's some of that. You always see those on the panels. Confusing logic. Over-the-top emotions. It's all a show, guy. And I got to lighten it up. This might not be a light for you guys, but these stories crack me up, actually. And this is what Forrest Mommy and I have talked about a lot on the show. This is the commie capture. So Trump signs the executive orders, right? Those executive orders, they don't mean anything for the states. The states can, like, that's what we want. That's what people who don't want big government, they want the states to exercise their power. And when Biden was in office, the commies would want the federal policy to trickle down to the states. But now that Trump is signing executive orders, which don't mean anything for the states, a lot of the executive orders, they're showmanship. Some of them do have an impact, but Congress has to, they have to sign off on some of them. But when it comes to the state level, and the one I'm talking about in particular is the transgender in sports. That executive order means nothing to the states. And what Indivisible and the activists have said in their trainings, that we played a lot of it on the show, is they have said, we're organizing and we are going to, they're going to do these direct action things, and they're going to pressure the local school boards, and they're going to pressure the local governments to resist Trump's executive order initiatives. One of them being trans women in female sports. So dudes with balls in women's sports. And they have on mobilize.us all these groups going over saying, we want dicks in women's sports, dominate. Like they do. They organize these people with nothing else to do, who probably love this guy, who say 2 + 2. They probably love that guy. And they go there and they think they're feminists, and they're advocating very, very boldly to have women destroyed by men in sports. And Maine has a perfect example of this that happened. This is just such a great, great story. Like, I actually, great job by this young lady, dominated the pole vault. You guys remember the Olympic pole vault, right? Where the guy almost got over, but his big fat dick knocked the pole over? Well, potentially in the future, we could see that happen in the women's variety of the sport with this athlete. And the headline, okay. Yeah, the headline, trans-identified male, it's a trans female who's a biological male, wins Maine high school pole vaulting championship as it violates Trump's EO. That doesn't matter. They put that in the headline, but that doesn't matter. The EO means nothing. It's state. So this is what I'm talking about. State law is good. State power is good. But if you let the commies come in and co-opt your state power, they're going to use it for commie stuff. So everybody's paying attention to the Trump show. You have the opportunity to exercise state power. The commies are going to take it away. They're going to co-opt it. Now, Maine is a state that's, it's real gay anyway, real gay and commie anyway. Obviously, as we see here by the pole vaulting school competition. But it's just like, I don't even know why you would have your kid in high school there, because it's like, no matter how, if you have a daughter, it's like no matter how good she gets at sports, it's just like, there's some, 6'5" dude who sucks at sports, who's just like, I want to go dominate women in sports. And that's what this is. That's what this is. It is a Cumberland High School student. He's now known as Katie. I don't know what her previous, I don't know what, dead name. I don't know what it previously was. But she vaulted to nearly 11 feet over the pole vaulting bar, taking the state championship and nearly breaking a record that was set the previous year, which I have to say proves the point. Women can compete with men in sports. Didn't break the record. Didn't beat the female. So, okay, merge it all together. Although, if you win, you don't necessarily have to go higher and try a higher one. And he's probably like, oh, my lady penis might knock that bar over, like the Olympian might not have wanted to risk it. Sometimes lady dicks are thick. It's just, you don't want to risk it in pole vaulting, especially female pole vaulting if you have a big lady penis. Katie's jump would have barely gotten her in the top 10 of the men's sport. So she would have finished third to last, because there's only, this is B. This is not like category A of the high school sport. What is it? Hold on. It's like the lower level. It's not like 5A. It's not the best athletes. It's the it's the smaller schools. And there was only 12 people competing. So had she been competing as a boy, like her penis and balls would have indicated she probably should have been competing, she would have finished third to last, barely above 11th and 12th. I mean, barely. But, I think it's smart, because it's like, why finish almost dead last when you can win the championship? It's good strategy. I mean, forever, he's going to go home with a trophy. I would like to know the percentage of these athletes that 10 years from now are still chicks. They should take the trophies back. If 10 years from now they're a dude, they should give the trophy back. Don't have it on. Yeah, that's when I won the pole vaulting state championship in the female division. In the female division, Dad, yeah, I went through a period of 6 months where I was a female, son, because I like to win. And so, I can show you some pictures. Let me show you this. There you go. I think I show you that. So there she is right there. You see how tall she is? That's her. Greeley. That's clearly a guy. That's a tall guy, is what that is. And he's wearing these tiny shorts, and he's like a foot taller than two females next to him. Imagine being those girls' dad. Your daughter might have won state championship. And this dude, he looks like Ashton Kutcher from that 70s show is what he looks like. Comes in. Like, you would have finished last, but you finished first. It's just so embarrassing. He has to not have a father. There's no way this kid has a father. Is there any chance this kid has a dad? Like, yeah, like supporting it. Yeah, good job. Good job. Go in there and beat the shit out of those girls. They're so weak. I mean, that's the advantage of being a trans female is the dick and the ball. I mean, it's advantageous. There's a little bit more to this. So it is worth noting that in high school pole vaulting, the main difference between the boys and girls competition is that the pole is weighted, the length of the pole, and I'm not talking about his lady penis, I'm talking about the actual pole, is different than what they use. Girls generally use a lighter and shorter pole because they're much smaller in body size, as you can see here. They're much, much smaller. They're feminine. And this is just Ashton Kutcher in gay shorts. It'd be funny if it was Ashton Kutcher pretending to be a high schooler and a woman. And the smaller body size and smaller pole leads to lower vaulting heights. So the very nature of it, they're at a disadvantage because of the pole. And it's just, how do you walk around school like that? Do you walk around like a champion? Do you wear that around your neck? On spring break, do you say spring break ladies? Girls' night out. Do you do that? Do you wear a two-piece? Or do you laugh with the boys? Do you like, yeah, maybe it's a joke. Maybe he does look like he has makeup on a little bit. I'll give him that. And he's holding that state champ shirt. Here's his let me show you the X account here. There he is again. God, this is so awful, man. It's rare, I get it, but like, this is the commie shit they'll do. They'll do this. If you let them, they will do this in your town because the executive order means nothing. So they will do this if you're not paying attention. Here he is. Look at this shit. So those are the guys on the left, and here he is on the right. State champs. Of course, they fuzzied out the... Jeez. That is so embarrassing. That's a grift. That's either somebody with severe psychological issues, or that's somebody who's a psychopath who's going to end up as a state senator or a congressperson from Maine one day. These are the types of people who have the psychopathy mentality that don't give a shit. The type of people who can pretend to be a girl a foot and a half taller and just go dominate pole vaulting. Not a lot of people do pole vaulting. And that was probably like a specific sport. He probably like shopped around maybe basketball. Maybe he's not good enough at basketball. Maybe shot put. Maybe his arms are too skinny for shot put. Maybe track. He's not fast enough for track. Some black girls will beat him. He's like, nobody does pole vaulting. That's where I'll beat those bitches. And then he becomes a woman. And he changes his name. If anybody's still there, I'm surprised. Hopefully my computer doesn't pole vault over me again. I mean, it just pole vaulted right over me and smacked me in the face with its prolapsed. I'm not even going to go there. You guys know where I'm going. I'm going to pull it back. I can't believe the stream is still live. My computer completely died on me. Then the audio got all jacked up. It's protest. I think it's protest. I think Stacey Abrams has co-opted my computer and it's protesting against me. This is why donations to the show help. $1 a month, $5 a month. Cancel one of your gay subscriptions. Actually, we have actors who are on some of those shows who come onto this show. But because Hollywood's so weird, I tell them, I'm like, you don't want to say your name because I'm a conspiracy theorist. Let's do voice stuff. And they're brilliant, they're funny, they're hilarious. I don't want them to get in trouble. I would like to build this up to where they can show their face on a show like this without worrying about getting in trouble with their job and their career. I suck at the business side of it. We have a big audience, 0.5% percentile, whatever it is, in the world, audio listening wise. The amount that we make compared to shows that have a similar audience, it's just like a fraction of it because I'm so worried about coming off as a grifter that I never ask for much, but I have to start asking for things. Follow me on the platforms. Let the ads play if you're listening on audio. YouTube, Brad Binkley, Prop Report, Rumble, Freedom Act Radio on X. Donate $1 a month, $5 a month. Tiny URL. I got the new URL. tinyurl.com/Prop Report. Freedom Act Radio is my email. Message me on X. That's the best way to get in touch with me. My job is to get better at the business side of it because I want to expand and do cool stuff. I want to do fun stuff. You're not going to find a better show. Look, it's rough. It's rough around the edges. I know that because I do like 8 jobs at once. It's a friend of mine who might be listening right now, Bob. He said to me once, every shitty movie you ever see, it's just like the worst movie. There's like hundreds of people who all worked their ass off to make that piece of shit. Doing a podcast isn't like doing a movie, but there's a lot that goes into any podcast you ever listen to. Any of them. And people, it's hard to do. It's hard to do and sustain doing it. So it's like, I'm committed to getting better at the business side of it. And I'm committing to getting better to asking what I need to ask for and to creating products that are valuable for you guys and content that is valuable for you guys. Help us out, dude. You're not going to find a better combination of insight and humor. You're not. You'll find better production. You'll find humor and little insight. But the combination here with what we bring, we're rough around the edges. We're raw. But we bring it. We fucking bring it. And we don't ask for a lot of shit. I love you guys. The community, like talking to you guys, is so fucking cool, and I appreciate it so much. I'm sorry this cut out, and I thank you for continuing to listen and for doing that. I'm going to give you what the title promises, which we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on next time. But have you guys heard of Operation Bat Bomb? Operation Bat Bomb. You do bring it, bitch. That's right. That's right, dude. That's right, Matthew. That's right. No, I got no qualms about it. I'm vulgar. I do try to work on that. Sometimes I do it on purpose. But if you don't like me, then I'm okay. Then there's other people. It's like fine. I want people that I'm cool with, that we connect with, and I will improve for you guys. We're just trying to build up the breathing room to do that. Because we got something here. We really got something here. And Bat Bomb, Operation Bat Bomb. I had never heard of this before yesterday. Bat bombs were an experimental World War II weapon delivered by the United States. The bomb consisted of a bomb-shaped casing with over 1,000 compartments, each containing a hibernating Mexican free-tailed bat. Let me say that again. The bomb consisted of a bomb-shaped casing with over 1,000 compartments, each containing a hibernating Mexican free-tailed bat with a small compartment, a timed bomb attached to it. Dropped from a bomber at dawn, not at noon, at dawn, not after dinner, at dawn. The casings would display a parachute in mid-flight and open to release the bats, which would then disperse and roost in eaves and attics in a 20 to 40 mile radius. The incendiaries, which were set on timer, they put bombs on these bats that were on timers, and they unleashed the bats to go land in people's attics in a 20-mile radius. They don't know whose attics those are going in. They don't know if those are military or high-ranking official attics. Those could be very nice people's attics, and these bomb-attached bats are going in their attics. Man, the shit they think of. They were on timers. They would then ignite, and they would start fires in the inaccessible places in the largely wood and paper constructions of the Japanese cities that were the weapon's intended target. The U.S. Navy took control in 1943 using the project codename Project X-Ray. The bomb was conceived, who cares about that? The bomb was conceived by a dental surgeon. Is that what dentists think about? They clean your teeth and they're like, man, I could blow up some Japs with a bat bomb. This was an acquaintance of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. So Eleanor Roosevelt is your buddy. And maybe you're like, man, Eleanor really married up. She's the First Lady now. I got this idea. Can you give her this idea? No, I'm her dentist friend. I went to high school with her dentist. I think we can blow up the Japs if we put bombs on bats. And somebody was like, yeah, right this way, ma'am. Just what can I do to get Eleanor Roosevelt's attention? Bombs on bats. Probably perfectly clean teeth. I'm sure she cleaned the bat's teeth. The inspiration for the suggestion was a trip to Carlsbad, Carnival's National Park, which is the home to many bats. Yeah, you see a bunch of bats, and you're like, how can I blow these things up? That's how Batman was created. Adams wrote about the idea of the bomb bats, in a letter to the White House. That's funny. That's actually what she did. I didn't realize that. It's crazy. Somebody writes you can write a letter to the White House about an idea for a weird bomb, and they might get back to you. That's got to be the most surprising return letter ever. Honey, you remember that letter I wrote to the White House 6 months ago? About the bats with the bombs on them. They just got back to me. In January of 1942, a little more than a month after the attack on Pearl Harbor. They got us at Pearl Harbor. We're going to bomb them with bats. Adams was intrigued by the strength of bats and knew that they roosted before dawn. He also knew that most of the buildings in Tokyo were constructed of wood instead of concrete. So he knew his target's architecture. He believed that if the time-released bombs could be attached to bats, it's like the Wuhan bat. Some kind of container holding them could be dropped over the city after dark, and the bats would simply roost and burn Tokyo. And the bats would simply roost and burn Tokyo to the ground. What a dark individual. The plan was subsequent. This guy's not even a soldier. This is just a regular dentist who's cleaning people's teeth and thinking about how to burn Tokyo to the ground. Bats! Man. You don't ever want to get on the wrong side of that dentist. You'll wake up with a bat in your mouth. The plan was subsequently approved by President. I like this bad idea. I like that dentist of yours. He's got a lot of military ideas. And on the advice of Donald Griffin, and I don't know who that is, Adams stated that the bat was the lowest form of animal life. That's rude. That's rude. That's just justification. That's rationalizing you're blowing up a bunch of bats. He doesn't know that they're the lowest form. He's just like, we're going to kill them, so I got to convince myself they're awful. They're the lowest form. And that until now, reasons for its creation have remained unexplained. What a rationalization that piece of shit dentist had. This dude would put a bomb in Batman's mouth. He went on to espouse that bats were created by God to await this hour to play their part in the scheme of free human existence and to frustrate any attempt of those who dare to desecrate our way of life. Wow, that's some propaganda right there. This guy has some anti-bat propaganda. Dude, he felt really bad about it, I think. He realized that his plan was going to just murder a bunch of innocent bats. I don't know bats. I've never met a bat. I've seen pictures of them. They look creepy, but a porcupine is ugly, but a porcupine's a very nice animal. All animals might be nice. They're all just trying to survive. There's no animal flying around going, oh, I can't believe God damned me as the most useless animal on the planet where all I can do is blow up the Japs. This guy has really lied to himself so that he can think he's the good guy here. He's not the good guy. He's a bad dentist. Of Adams, Roosevelt remarked, the man is not a nut. Yes, I would argue he is, actually. If you have to start out a sentence, the man is not a nut, the man is most definitely a nut. Man is not a nut. It sounds like a perfectly wild idea, but it's worth looking into. You know, this is the same justification this guy probably gives for having sex with the bats. You have to have sex with them before you can properly place the bomb. I'll take care of all of that, this guy probably said. After Roosevelt gave the project his approval, it was regulated to the authority of the United States Army Air Force. Can you imagine being in the Air Force and they're like, we need you to put bombs in these bats. This dentist had an idea. What? Adams assembled the workers for the project, including a mammalologist. What? I guess that's a bat person? These poor little bats, dude. Including mammalologist Jack Von Bloken, actor Tim Holt. They got an actor, former gang. Listen to this crew they got together. They got a mammalologist. I got to look that up. I'm going to hit y'all's comments after I get through this. A mammalologist is a doctor who specializes in diagnosing and treating breast. So they got a boob guy. They got a boob doctor. They got an actor. They got a former gangster. And they got a former hotel manager. This dentist is the most batshit crazy dentist humanity has ever produced. Matthew says this guy was not only a bat hater. I'm accusing him of bat. I'm not accusing him of bat rape. I'm putting a lot of money on this guy had a bat fetish. What about that team? Your best friend's a dentist? Is he? Yeah. Is he a bat guy? Dude. That's crazy. Okay, so here's what we do. We're going to blow up the Japanese with bats. Who are you again? I'm a dentist down the street. Okay, what do you need? I need an actor, I need a boob doctor, and I need a former gangster. And this is important, a hotel manager. If this plan's going to work. All right, get him everything you need, United States Air Force. I would like to see the look on the Air Force's face. This is interesting. Von Bloker, his assistant, Jack Kofer and Orzo Weasel, who's a scientist, a self-described bat. Okay, this is weird. These guys are self-described. They found self-described bat lovers. These are bat rapists. Is what these are bat rapists trying to justify their bestiality for the small animal before trying to blow up Japanese people with it. It won't fly into the Japanese house unless you have sex with it first. How do you find bat lovers in 1940 or whatever? It's not like you can't go on Reddit, you know. You can't go on Snap, find a creepy group. Probably a lot harder. Probably had to do a lot of dog whistling in local newspapers and stuff with your bat stuff, your bat fetish. Self-described bat lovers noted that it did not occur to them that to question the morality of the ecological consequences of sacrificing a few million bats. This is genocide. For the duration of the project, many members enlisted in the Air Force. This is the craziest shit I've ever heard. They went along with it. The government, the Air Force said yes. Give me the bat freaks. And let's kill a million. Let's wipe out a bat population. For the duration of the project, many members enlisted in the Air Force, where Adams quickly promoted them to act. They were promoted to acting non-commissioned officers. Can you imagine spending your whole life working your way up in the Air Force, and all of a sudden a bat fucker comes in and says, let's fuck the bats and then blow them up. And they're like, you're a captain. My God. I'm going to start writing crazy-ass letters to the White House. The team had to determine several variables to make the project feasible, including what kind of bombs could be attached to the bats. Well, that's important. As well as the temperature at which to store and transport them. How do you catch the bats? That's what I want to know. The bats had to be kept in hibernation while they were shipped. To accomplish this, they were stuck in ice cube trays and cooled. What the fuck? You know somebody opened that fridge not knowing they were in there. It dropped a bat sickle into their drink, and then, you know, a bat that wakes up from, it just flies out of, I mean, that's got to be terrifying. They also had to decide what species of bat to use for the bombs. See, these are a lot of assumptions, too. So they committed to the bat thing without knowing the species. They figured all this stuff out later. This is very bad preparation. After testing several species, so they tested a bunch of them. So they had sex with it and tried to bomb a bunch of them. The Mexican free-tailed bat was selected by Adams, the creep. But Adams had to ask for permission from the National Park Service to harvest large numbers of Mexican free-tailed bats from the caves of the government property. So they went cave diving to find these bats. Dude, this is crazy. This creep. This is the creepiest person. And the president sanctioned this. This is not the Batman we wanted, okay? Christian Bale's not playing this guy. While the original plan was to arm the bats with white, how do you say that word? Phosphorus? It's like poison, is that what that is? It's a gas that's used to, it's like a Jack Bauer 24 gas, I think. American chemist Louis Freyer joined the team. So a chemist gets on board. They called him out. They're like, look, we got this bat project. We got this hotel manager. We got this former gangster. We got this actor. And we got this, ball gag dentist sex freak who wants to blow up some bats. We need a chemist on our team. Are you in? And Louis Freyer's like, I'm fucking in. And he brought all the white phosphorus. actually, he replaced it. He said, you can't use that. What we need is napalm. And that's what he brought to the team. I don't know why this isn't a movie. Probably all the bat sex. It's probably, it wouldn't, well, maybe it would. Maybe it could be top 10 trending on Netflix. That's the kind of thing. You can make them gay bats, trans bats, and fit right in. Tests were usually used to determine how much napalm, what kind of test an individual bat could carry. Determining that 14-gram, 0.5 ounce bat could carry a payload of 18 grams or 0.63 ounces of napalm. Napalm was stored in a small cellulose container after trying the attachment methods. So they tried these attachment methods and they didn't work, which means a bunch of bats flew around somewhere and a bunch of napalm just fell off into random places. We're doing a military training. Sorry about your child. The napalm was stored. Oh, wait, we got that part. They tried it several times. They decided to attach the napalm unit to the bats using adhesive, gluing them in front of the bats. What did they use before? If they didn't use adhesive, did they staple them? Did they just lick the back of the napalm and hope it would stick? Did they use Scotch tape? I would think that they would surgically put the napalm in there. I guess like brain chip stuff. It just seems like glue could, I don't know. Is there bat glue? I know there's wood glue. Is there bat glue? What's bat skin like? This is the government. These are the people that run the government. People like this. People that do this stuff. 100 years from now, there's going to be a story that makes this look normal. Like the stuff going on right now makes this look like Little House on the Prairie. They glued them to the front of the bats. The bomb carrier was a sheet of metal. Inside of the tube, it was fitted with 20 trays of napalm. And they deployed them from an airplane. From an altitude of 4,000 feet. They didn't land upside down because we know that, Delta, you could turn it. I wonder if those people with the plane flipped over from Delta, they said they were hanging like bats, that they have napalm glued to them. The sides of the bombs would fall away, allowing the bats to disperse, and they would fly away. So there were some setbacks here. After a series of tests to answer the operational questions were conducted, one incident at a military base, they set a military base on fire trying this. When armed bats were accidentally released at the military base, because who knew you couldn't control a bunch of bats, the bats roosted under a fuel tank. So they flew under a fuel tank because they probably don't know shit about bats, and incinerated a test range. Guessing a bunch of napalm blew up. Following the setback, the project was so they sent it to the Navy after this. The Air Force got it taken away from them, and they renamed it the Project X-Ray, and then they passed it to the Marines that December. This is crazy. And they did a bunch of experiments. I wonder how many people died from these experiments. The definitive test was carried out. Oh, this is wild, dude. After several experiments and operational adjustments, the definitive test was carried out on the Japanese village. They just picked a village to carry it out on. Oh, no, a mock-up. So, yeah, that wasn't a real village. It was a mock-up of a Japanese city that they built. They built a fake Japanese city. And they conducted chemical warfare experiments on it with bats in Utah. Observers at the test witnessed optimistic accounts. The chief of the bomb testing wrote, a reasonable number of destructive fires can be started in spite of the extremely small size of the units, the bats. The main advantage of the units would seem to be their placement within the enemy structures without knowledge of the householder or the watchers, thus allowing the fire to establish itself before discovered. So now every time you hear something in your attic, napalm, the National Defense Research Observer said it was concluded that X-ray is an effective weapon. X-ray. Doesn't have to do anything. The chief chemist reported that X-ray was a project, excuse me. It was more effective than the standard, so it was more effective than a regular bomb. And expressed in another way, the regular bombs would get probably 167 to 400 fires. They just try and fuck with people. I mean, this is that CIA document, the OSS document, where they mess with people. Where they, what's that document called again, where it's like how to obstruct everything, and it's like, if you're in an enemy territory, you need to go pour sand in all of your advisors or your bosses' gasoline engines. You need to go jam up the printer at your office. You need to go unplug. It's just a bunch of petty shit. I mean, of course, this is more than petty. You're setting stuff on fire. But it's like stuff you don't necessarily think about. Oh, wow. Think of 1,000 fires breaking out simultaneously over a circle of 40 miles in diameter to every bomb dropped. Japan could have been devastated, yet with a small loss of American lives. So there's an admission. The infamous invasion by bats project was afterwards referred to as by Stanley P. Lovell, director of the research and development of the Office of Strategic Services, which became the CIA, as Die Friedman farce. He mentioned that bats during testing were dropping to the ground like stones. I didn't expect that to be. I thought that would be a little bit more concise, but turned out to be pretty crazy. All right, guys. Thanks for sticking around. I don't know what happened with my tech, but it's having fun hanging out with you guys. Same bat dudes from... Yeah, dude, maybe. Alexa, play Bats in Belfry Dispatch. This can't be real. It's crazy, dude. No, so I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I also, if you type in... So if you want to search just the CIA website, because the CIA has a lot of these declassified PDFs about stuff like this, which I did download some of them. I haven't read them yet. They're hundreds of pages. But if you type in site and then CIA.gov next to, so site and then colon or semicolon, the one with 2 dots, whatever that one is, site, colon, semicolon, whichever one it is, and then CIA.gov, and then just type in whatever you want to search. So I typed, because I had found this operation, so I typed in bat bombs, and then put that in quotations, and then next to that, put PDF in quotations. And it will return all of the documents only within the CIA's website. So you'll get no search results from anywhere else but inside the CIA's website. And every search result will have that term bat bomb in it. So it focuses the search. You can also do that on, I think it's like Black Project or Vault. Black Vault has a bunch of these old CIA documents. There's so many of these things. It's fun to search through those. I'm going to start doing like one a show. Definitely more concise than this. But this was my first experimentation with it. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Yeah, thanks for... Yeah, I'm glad you guys are still here when I came back. You know, my tech went way out. But we will be back later tonight. We're going to have legit bat on. Not sure what time. We got to talk to Joe. He's out in California. I know we're going to coordinate when he gets off of work. But it'll be a good time. And I hope to see you guys later on. You guys have a fantastic rest of y'all's day. See y'all later.